Hi, I'm Dan Goldman. I'm a writer, artist, graphic novelist, and now, a voice in your ear. 2 years ago, I started a newsletter, mostly for myself, where I started writing down some of the wildest, funniest, true-ish stories from my tiny little life to entertain old friends and make new ones. I called the series Dang Old Man. But ever since I started, folks keep writing in to say, Dan, you have to make audio versions of these, which I thought was a pretty good idea. So here we are. You're listening to one of them, and it's about to begin right now. Welcome to Dang Old Man, True-ish Stories by Dan Goldman. Hi, it's me. For a little context, this story took place during the summer of 2002, during which I was living in Miami Beach and trying to find my digital art style, sort through a recent heartbreak, and make enough money to fund my next move. It's a story about making friends, making magic, and making magic with friends. And now, may I present Thieves of the Dawn. Maz and I met working on the Video Music Awards for MTV Latino America. Out one summer day looking for graphic design work, I bumped into my old college friend, Sash. She sat by herself at a sidewalk cafe, an empty espresso cup in one hand, Camel Light in the other, breathing her way through a panic attack. She told me later that the moment before we locked eyes, she was praying to God to send her someone to help her. Starting her first executive producer gig at MTV, she was in over her head and drowning. Then she blinked, and there I was on the sidewalk, sweaty, squinting against the sun, searching for enough coin to reset the Rubik's Cube of my life, starting with the dead bedroom apartment I still lived in with my ex-girlfriend. My whole heart dedicated to my art hustle, I needed to break orbit before one of us started sleeping with other people. Sasha's immediate problem was a podium. The actual VMA trophy was already designed and fabricated, but production needed a podium for the trophy to stand on while talent received it. Sash. And I'm thinking like a Greek temple, you know those columns? Me. Classical Greek columns? Sash. Eyes widening. Yes. Me. Like at the Parthenon? Or the White House, but smaller. Sash. Yes, with that curly, swirly thing at the top. Me. Ionic columns. Thinking. I know exactly where to get something like that. That wasn't a lie. There was a patio furniture warehouse. In true Floridian creativity, it was called Patio Furniture Warehouse, right next to my father's discount bookstore. I'd passed it a million times on the access road that ran parallel to I-95. I drove off in a huff of car exhaust and returned 2 hours later with exactly the item she'd envisioned. After I spray painted it metallic gold in the alley behind the office and got approval from Sasha's bosses, I was booked on the spot for the next 3 months as her production coordinator. My job? Making sure the ballooning complexity of the VMAs never overwhelmed Sash. Soon I learned the show would be hosted by Diego Luna, with live performances by Avril Lavigne, Shakira, Carlos Santana, Maná, Paulina Rubio, and System of a Down. Come the week of the show, MTV also added in-house award presentations by the Rolling Stones, Iggy Pop, Johnny Knoxville, and like 2/3 of the Backstreet Boys. I really only cared about Iggy Pop. Working on the show for months, I had a staff of fetchers and schleppers who I could send out for items I'd sourced, including Jose, a Colombian dude about my age and one of the producer's cousins. One day, Jose and I needed to transport a Baroque fainting couch for someone's onstage performance. Neither of us drove a truck or a van, but Jose had a buddy with a van, a wiry Libyan cat that he called Maz, who showed up every day on time, high-energy stoned, constantly belly laughing, never serious but always hardworking. The three of us clicked, and instantly Maz and the Maz van became part of our crew, all the way through to the show date. A few weeks before the show, after a long day's work, The three of us went out for pitchers of beer and jalea, a platter of Peruvian-style fried seafood. Too drunk to drive home, our nostrils filled with sweet, night-blooming jasmine, I announced that I lived close enough to just walk home. Maz: "Me too, Danny boy. I can't catch another DUI either, or I'm fucked, bro. Which way are you headed?" The street spun as I pointed in the direction of home, northeast-ish, same as Maz. We walked together, following the canal along Date Boulevard, sharing a spliff, making all the same turns. By the time we reached my building, I had to admit, me, chuckling, Maz, I think we're neighbors. Maz: "Bro, I live around the corner from you. Come on, let me show you." Taking me by the hand, he's from Libya where men hold hands all the time, he led me down the next block, around the side of a beautiful home I'd walked past for nearly a year. In its backyard was a 1940s Art Deco bungalow hidden in the shade of a mango tree. Maz: "Yeah, bro, I've lived here for like a year with my girl Fariba. We're kind of broken up right now, but nobody can afford to move out yet, so whatever," he laughs. "We still hit it sometimes too, I can't help myself." It was too weird, the parallels. I wondered if this whole neighborhood was populated by broken up couples stuck together by apartment leases. Maz: "You want to come in and meet her?" He rapped on his front door, and Fariba opened it. She was tiny and slim with long black hair, large eyes just as glazed as Maz's. We sat on a Persian rug on the floor of their bungalow and drank tiny glasses of black tea. Fariba: "So I'm finally meeting Dan. I've heard quite a lot about you, the illustrator, the MTV man. Thank you for hiring my big barking dog. I had to quit the yoga studio, and this timing really saved us." Maz wrapped his arm around her shoulder, a sheltering provider, but she silently slid out from under it. Fariba, her eyes flashing: "I trust he takes your work more seriously than everything else?" Uh-oh. Maz: "Fari, don't..." She held up a palm at him, and he was quiet. She took a hand-rolled cigarette from her pocket, lit it, locked eyes with me. Fariba: "You know he uses you as an excuse for staying out late at night?" Off my surprise: "No, I didn't think you knew that." Blows smoke at me: "Now you do." At which point I finished my tea. She didn't pour me anymore. It was time to return to the wreckage of my own moldering breakup. Tucked into bed, facing the wall, she whined when I came in, said she had to get up early for work. After the VMAs aired, Maz and I were both out of work again. Both our ex-girlfriends had jobs, so we were around all day hustling, now with each other as a support system. Teaming up professionally with Maz, my designs and illustration plus his Flash and HTML schools, let us pitch on bigger ticket projects. Instead of dropping flyers and waiting for random clients to contact us by email, we'd crash events, post up at hotel bars and clubs, look interesting and make small talk. Sometimes we'd crash expensive networking events, clearly shady slobs in shorts and flip-flops, eating their hors d'oeuvres, drinking free drinks, schmoozing with color flyers of our design services until somebody asked us to leave. That's how we wound up getting a meeting with Sean and Delissa, CEOs of playashouse.com. Event security grabbed us by our elbows to escort us to the sidewalk, while Sean and Delissa called after us that they'd follow up via email. The follow-up came on one of those perfect Miami Beach nights, the air humid and perfumed with salt and jasmine and weed, the sea calm and flat as a carpet, the sun bidding us goodnight by lighting everything with slow-motion pink and orange fire. Maz knocked on my door to fetch me. When I opened it, he stood straddling his BMX bicycle. Maz: "Bro, it's so nice out. Let's ride bikes down there, meet these fucking douchebags. Maybe we'll find some honeys to get into trouble with." He cackled at the end of that. Maz always laughed hard at the end of every sentence. He was a never-ending gush of laughter, always failing to contain itself. Me: "Where are we meeting them?" Maz: "Nikki Beach, bro." His fist was out, waiting for my dap. I went around back to fetch my bike, wiped it clean of the crab spider webs first with a washcloth. I hadn't ridden the poor thing in months. Together we rolled down Sheridan Avenue, turned east onto Ocean Drive, and slow-pedaled down the boardwalk, passing the miles of beachfront pastel Art Deco buildings that make Miami famous or infamous in 20-year cycles. Palm trees shook their fronds in the sea breeze. Models rollerbladed past in shoestring bikinis. Leathery old folks tanned themselves on folding lawn chairs. Oiled muscle daddies leaned against street posts, cruising. I pushed my creaky pedals across sandy concrete, through a soup of sky and smoke and skin. This oons, oons, oons following you might have been coming from a club down the block or from between your own ears. Maz rolled up next to me, holding an unlit honey blunt, tapping it against his teeth like Groucho Marx. Maz, tell me your dumbass brought a lighter, otherwise we gotta share this with these CEO motherfuckers. Of course I forgot to bring a lighter. We locked up our bikes a few blocks away, near the Magenta Diner Big Pink, and started walking down to Nikki Beach on the sand. Maz, speaking his text out loud. Bro, where you at? ? Sent. He was still laughing when two pink-skinned Russian men in Speedos walked towards us, holding each other's hands and cigarettes in their free ones. Maz leapt out at them, hyper-animated, startling them onto their back feet. Maz, beautiful boys, takes the blunt from behind his ear. Can I get a light? Sucking their fire into our blunt, Maz offered it to them first. I thought immediately of HSV-1, felt relieved when they passed. They had somewhere better to be. A couple of lusty pulls from the blunt, some light coughing, and we entered the alternate dimension of Nikki Beach, an upscale beachfront club down at the southernmost tip of South Beach. With linen-tented cabanas on the sand and expensive wooden chaise lounges, it was the party spot for the rich, hot, and cheesy. To me, Nikki Beach was the cultural void that roared around South Beach after everyone interesting moved away in 1998 and the Eurotrash moved in. All excess, no taste. Not my scene, but clients. Wandering around the sand, Maz poked his head into tent after tent, interrupting partygoers and lovers until I heard him bellow, Maz, yo! Two voices, Maz! The CEOs invited us in. The shade of the tent was cool, gathering the ocean breeze, littered with empty chaise lounges. Maz and I each took one. Tangled together in a massive papasan chair were Sean and Delissa, grinning from ear to ear. Delissa, I'd hug you, but I'm really comfortable. Maz, no worries, bro. You remember my partner, the artist, DAN GOLDMAN. Sean, Daniel-san, like the, me, exactly like that. The CEOs giggled like children, definitely on something fun. Sean wrapped his arms around Delissa, his fingers circling her belly button, making her coo. Sean, yeah, so our thing, playershouse.com, is gonna be huge. Delissa, arms wide for emphasis, huge. Sean, we've done all the market research and Sean got distracted by her flat, tan tummy. Leaning down, he kissed it sloppily, sticking the tip of his tongue fully inside her belly button. She playfully slapped the top of his skull, and he looked up like a dog with a stolen slice of pizza, grinning. Sean, oh, sorry amigos. We ate some shrooms a while ago and kind of forgot we were supposed to meet y'all till you texted. Maybe we can do like a proper do-over tomorrow? My time disrespected, I gritted my teeth at this, but Maz waved it away. Chill. Maz, all good, all good. Wiping the saliva off her belly with her wrist, Delissa reached under the papasan cushion and held up a large Ziploc bag full of dried mushrooms, like a prize kill, tossing it into Maz's lap. Delissa, in the meantime, party with us! Beats from the DJ booth kicked up on cue. Maz and I shrugged, opened the bag of mushrooms, and ate 2 big caps each, washing them down with cold Presidentes from their plastic cooler. 3 minutes passed before Sean and Delissa began making out again. This time heavier. He was rubbing her over her panties. I looked over at Maz, cocked my head towards the tent exit. We'd come all this way to meet these fools for nothing. As we left, I waved at the dry humping CEOs, but Maz yanked my wrist. Maz, into my ear. Come on, bro, let's bounce. The night sky cooled our hustle, and we walked back up the beach towards where we'd locked up our bikes. I was so tired of always clawing for never enough money, month after month, when all I wanted was to be free to make art in peace, shine what I had inside of me into a boring world that needed me. Maz started to giggle, then erupted into his usual full belly laugh. I looked up from my own whining self-pity. In his hands, he held Sean and Delissa's bag of mushrooms. Me. Oh, shit, you ganked the whole bag? He grinned wide, nodding quickly, looking like a crazed chicken. I remembered then that we'd already eaten a few, back in their tent. My eyes flicked from him to the low full moon, a pale eye, a soft yellow spotlight. Things were about to get wild. The rhythm of the ocean grew louder, roaring, wet. Maz and I sat on the shore in the darkness, our backs to the strip of neon-lit deco hotels, thirsty palm trees, sidewalk activity. Our dilated pupils stared out at the dark, into the surf, searching. My normal breathing wasn't enough. I felt constrained, like I was choking. I inhaled deeper, emptying the air from my body loud and hot through my mouth, like in yoga class. Drawing breath again, fresh oxygen in my blood fizzled through my body and brain like ginger ale, sweet and alive. I opened my mouth to speak and burped. Maz looked over at me, farted loudly in response, then started laughing again, unable to stop. The giggles caught me too, racking my body with unstoppable waves of hilarity at I didn't even know what until we lay on our backs, covered in sand, tears forming mud as we panted and begged the mushrooms to release us from this much joy so we could just breathe again. When the laughter finally passed, wonder took its place. A fork of lightning over the ocean scrawled itself down from dark clouds, illuminating the rippling three-dimensional textures of storm clouds all above us, flattened and hidden by Ocean Drive's light pollution. Maz, did you see that, bro? Me, yeah, I saw it. Called to attention, we sat up on our knees like students, eyes wide, lungs open, breathing in salt air and electricity. The offshore storm responded, speaking back in flashes of lightning. We were wrapped, rooted to the spot, 2 rocks on the beach. The lightning bolts that appeared in the sky remained, each new one joining its sisters, until the sky grew brighter and brighter, filling up with electric white threads like me, veins, like an organism we're inside of. Maz, bro, yes! A trick of the ocean spray, a message from the mushrooms inside us. Lightning bolts continued to arrive, second after second, wires connecting cloud to ocean, while 2 tiny primates sat on the sand, open-mouthed, tears of wonder rolling down their faces, motes watching a heavenly circulatory system forming the body of a nameless god. And then, in a clap of thunder, they disappeared, leaving only dark sky, mysterious sea. Raindrops started to fall, slightly warm and clean. Eyes closed, the rain soaked my hair, ran into my eyes, my mouth, drenched my clothes. Shaking my shoulder, Maz snapped me back to the now. He pointed to the jetty of limestone boulders down the beach from us that extended out about a 1/4 mile into the sea. Maz, yo, let's climb out there. The jetty's rocks were wet and slippery, so we left our shoes on the beach, since human feet grip better than rubber soles. As we climbed a 1/4 of the way out, the waves were agitating, slapping our bodies higher and higher with cooler water from down deep, splashing across our shins, knees, chests, shoulders. Me, the tide's coming in, isn't it? Standing atop a boulder like an adventurer, Maz opened his mouth to speak and was splashed by a wave from beneath him that gushed upwards, filling his mouth with seawater. Shocked, he spit it out, grinning with full teeth and cracking up. Maz, who cares? Let's go! The tide was rising, and the storm offshore was moving inland, making the sea choppy all around us. Barefoot and soaked, we scampered from boulder to boulder, soldiering forward towards the point of the jetty. Every few steps, a larger wave would strike, threatening to knock us into the water where who knows what creatures circled, hungry for monkey meat. I knelt down, hooking my fingers and toes into the holes of the limestone, crawling on all fours down the jetty. Another wave hit us, and Maz was nearly knocked into the sea. He dropped to all fours too, following my lead. With our faces so close to the limestone, we could see the tiny bugs, not insects, but called sea roaches anyway, skittering across the surface with us as they had for hundreds of millions of years before my species even existed. We're all just sea roaches. Rain began beating down on us harder, the drops from offshore growing colder still. Another 100 yards and we'd reached the last boulder of the jetty. There were several iron rungs drilled into the boulder, heavy and cold and rusty, but solid enough to last forever. I looped my elbow around the iron, became unimpeachable. Yelling against the storm. "Who do you think put these here? Was it a mariner or like the Army Corps of Engineers?" Maz. "Bro, who cares?" Also holding onto an iron loop for dear life. Maz's other hand dug into his pocket. Maz. "Danny boy, let's do some magic!" Waves crashing all around us, he held up the sea-sprayed Ziploc bag. 2 handfuls of mushrooms remained. He crammed half of them into his mouth, passing me the bag. I snarfed up the rest. Maz, after minutes of slow mastication. "Okay, bro, here's the plan. The sun is gonna come up, but not until we fucking say so." I laugh, but he's serious. "We're gonna extend this night with our spirits until we find some honeys to get nice with." My mouth full of even more mushrooms, my teeth grinding them into a woody slurry, tears rolling down my cheeks. I thought about my home, that rental apartment a few miles up the beach. About the young woman who I slept next to in bed every night without touching for many months after mutually deciding we didn't love or even want each other. The storm was closing in on us. The waves grew angrier, rolled in faster. My heart racing, clear mucus began to dribble from my nose as I panted my way into a heightened trip, the new mushrooms joining the ones already opening my brain, heart, energy, body. Soto. I miss being touched. Lightning exploded right over my head, a crash of white highlighting the crests of waves, knobs of coral rock, revealing the colors of tiny shadows of massive cargo ships that crossed the horizon horizontally like ants. The air around us hummed with electricity. Maz threw back his head and howled like a wolf, and that sound carried forever. A pack now. Twin sorcerers at the edge of the world. I joined him, and we howled together, full-throated, teeth bared, against harsh nature and loneliness, against the money that never came, releasing internal muscles deep inside our bodies that held in sorrow and anger that grew around it. I was crying as I howled, but also kind of singing, and there was a quality to the music coming out of me. Human and wolf and primate and ancient and mushroom and wind, and the breath kept coming, pushing against the storming sea, emptying this tiny flesh body of all this internal noise, pushing it out into the world, into the sky, pointed at the moon. And at the center of the fugue, a quiet voice, speaking plainly. Quiet voice. May dawn never come. The wind spent, inside and out. The sea began to quiet. The tide still rose, but the waves softened. We had done our spell, and it was time to head back. Releasing our arms from the iron bars, Maz and I stood slowly, the sea spinning around us like drunks on the deck of a ship. Slowly, we regained our sea legs and grew lighter, hopping from boulder to boulder back the way we came until our feet landed on the sand again. We flopped onto the beach like string-cut puppets, the surf lapping up around our ankles and retreating once, twice, 3 times. Maz and I faced each other, 3 feet of air between us, eyes shining like flames in the moonlight. Maz. Danny boy, this is the best, he swallows. Bro, I never met anybody like you before. And I know what he's saying and what he's not saying. It's not in his vocabulary. It doesn't have to be. My eyes meet his. Me. You can't make magic with just anybody. Most people are... Maz, laughing. Bro, who cares? Who cares about most people? It doesn't matter. He leapt up, knees dug into the sand, his thoughts rushing to form his words on the way out. Maz, this is all there is. This one tiny moment, forever. So fuck it, bro. Who cares? The thought you're having while I'm talking right now, or now, or the next one, none of that shit matters. We're all here, alive, bro, breathing this breath, dancing our fat little asses across the earth, and that's it, bro. Exhausting himself. It's like... I sit up too, but on my ass, slowly, lazily. Me. You're a little guru. You know that, right? Emotions hit him. His eyes teared up. He told me before that he'd been through a lot of shit, the worst of which I'd probably never know about. But Maz followed his own spiritual calling. He studied teachings, went to watch live weekly satellite feeds of his favorite guru, Osho. For all his fucking around, he was always putting in the work, always present. Maz. It doesn't matter either. Laughs at himself. Who cares? Back on our feet eventually, we walked west, out of elemental darkness, towards the oons and the neon, the traffic, the smoke. The mushrooms inside us were driving. We panted, we sweated, every vibration of everything rippling our psychic spider webs that extended dozens of yards beyond our bodies in every direction. Signs melted together. Writing became a slurry of symbols that wouldn't sit still. Blocks rushed by as our legs propelled us westward until we stood outside a cocktail lounge called Maz, reading the sign. The Room. Me. This is a good place. Smiling. I like this place. Maz. Bro, maybe the universe sent us some honeys waiting for us in there. We looked at each other for a long beat, salty and wet, covered in sand, eyes puffy from crying tears of joy, throats raw from primal screaming our pain into the storm, and dapped up before opening the door. Stepping inside the room, the bar was all dark wood, red velvet, pink neon. It took a moment for our eyes to adjust, and we realized that everyone we worked with at MTV was in there. Sash, her assistant Chris, the hot, crusty Chilean girl with the septum piercing and tattoo sleeves was there, with both of her long-haired rocker boyfriends, Jose and Oscar and Christina and Mara and everyone's bosses. Everyone turned, called our names, but it was Sash who stepped forward, looking us up and down. Sash, what are you guys doing here? This is like kind of a private event. Maz started laughing, uncontrollably. I looked at my sandy legs and feet. We both instinctively took steps backwards towards the front door. There were actually many honeys in the room, but none for us. We were too wild, two savage wolves who didn't belong indoors. As a boiling being of conscious superfluid intelligence, it took everything I had to maintain my physical form, to remember the tune that calls itself Dan Goldman. So we stepped back out onto the sidewalk, and our spell, the theft of the dawn, broke outside the room, and morning arrived, pink and orange bleeding back into the sky. Me, narrating. In the end, they couldn't hold it back. Maz. Hold what back? Me. The dawn, bro. Maz. Who cares? More than human, but still neighbors, Maz and I walked back up Collins Avenue to Sheridan, back towards our homes, our ex-girlfriends, our ongoing separate and joint hustles. Stopping outside of my place first, I hugged Maz tight when a data point resurfaced. Me. fuck, we forgot the bicycles. And we laughed because, really? Who cares? We laughed the entire walk back down to Nikki Beach, two slow-cooking bozos in the already brutal sun. By the time we unlocked our bikes and started riding them back home, we were sober and hungry and went to a diner for breakfast instead. The end. This episode of Dan Goldman, True-ish Stories by Dan Goldman was written, performed, and produced for Kinjin Storylab by Dan Goldman. That's me. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan Goldman and on Blue Sky at dangoldman.net. Kinjin Storylab is my publishing company, where I also serialize the tropical horror comic series Red Light Properties, which is about haunted Miami real estate, psychedelic shamanism, Santeria, and late capitalism. Yeah, you need to get on that shit too. Our music was composed by Victoria Gianotti Schall. You can follow her on Instagram at TechToyMusic, TechToyMusic, and on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/techtoy. Sign up for free to Kinjin Storylab to receive stories and comics in your inbox every Sunday at kinjin.co. That's KINJIN.co. You can also subscribe to this podcast wherever the hell you listen to podcasts. Oh, we've reached the end. Thanks for listening and have a great day out there.